Hey guys, Asap here, and welcome to C++ tutorial number 15. So the last tutorial we looked at doing a calculator program with with one kind of loop. I think we used a while loop. I think I might have used or demonstrated doing it with a do while as well. When we first got into loops, I said there were 3 types of loops, and so far we've only covered 2, so today we're going to be covering the 3rd one, and that loop is the for loop. So if we open up here, you can see we've got include IOStream, and that's all we're going to actually need for this tutorial. Just declare main function, I guess. And I've commented some stuff here, and we have our first for loop. Okay, so what I've commented is I is just, I'll get onto that in a sec. Before we do that, let me talk about the setup of a for loop. Basically, we type the keyword for, of course, 2 parentheses, and inside the parentheses we can have 3 options, okay? In the first section, we can declare a variable. In the second section, we can set our the controlling statement for the loop. And in the third, we can write a statement that does something. Okay, so basically in here we've got the keyword for, the 2 parentheses, we're declaring a variable called I and assigning it a value of 0. We're saying our controlling statement is while I is less than 10, and every iteration of the for loop we're going to increment I by 1. Okay, and here I is just the preferred name for the control variable in for loops. You'll see other programmers use it often. Okay, so basically for no apparent reason, people started using I as the name for the control variable we use in for loops, and it's just kind of stuck. Okay, so anyway, let me go ahead and before I run it, let's look at the main statement in our loop. We've got output hello world, comma, space, and then I. So what it's going to do is it's going to output hello world every time, then a comma and a space, and then it's going to output a number depending on what value is inside the variable I. So if I press F5 to run, go up here, it's at the top. We can see here we've got hello world 0, hello world 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And it goes all the way up to 9 because remember it's while it's less than 10, not while it's less than or equal to. So once it hits 10, it will stop looping through. Okay. I think that's about it on that first bit. We're just going to go ahead and give in 3 line breaks. Now for the second loop we've got a little change, but before I talk about that, basically, because we've already used I as a control variable for this first loop, we're going to use J, and the reason is basically when I is taken as a control variable name, programmers generally just continue through the alphabet, so J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, etc. In for loops, we're allowed to leave spaces open, is what this for loop is demonstrating. Okay, so here you can see, again, we're declaring a variable called J and assigning it a value of 0. The control statement is while J is less than 10, but we've missed out a section here, and that's the section where we're allowed to do something. Okay, because we're not doing something here, namely incrementing the control variables so that this doesn't end up as an infinite loop. What we actually do is we're going to increment that variable inside of the loop. And the only reason I'm doing this is because I don't want to have an infinite loop. It's not like if you miss it out here, you have to do it in here. Okay, it's just I wanted to do this to prevent an infinite loop. And I say here we're incrementing the variable inside the loop as opposed to doing it in the third part of the for loop. Also, note the effect of putting j++ before or after our main statement, and I'll demonstrate that effect on the third loop. But before we do this, let's just check out the main statement. So we say hello back, comma space j. Okay, so basically it's going to do the same thing exactly, but with hello back. I've still got it up here. So you can see here hello world 012, etc., etc. And now hello back 012, etc. And it does it exactly the same, because while we're not incrementing a variable here, we're just doing it inside here, so it still works the same. Now we do another 3 spaces, carriage returns, whatever you want to call them, and in this final one we have an example of leaving spaces open again, but here we're declaring a variable outside the loop and using it as the control for the loop. And I've just also said, please note that if you leave a blank space, so we left a blank space here for instance, you'll still need to put in the semicolon. So here we can see we've got 2 semicolons in a full for loop. So we missed out that, and there's no semicolon after that. So in this loop, in this loop, we didn't actually have to put in that semicolon. But here we're missing out one at the start and one at the end, and the one at the start has a semicolon after it. So you can see we've actually got a semicolon even though there's no statement before it. You have to put that in, okay? It's a rule. So again, you can see here I'm using k, which comes after j. I'm declaring the variable outside rather than doing it inside here, just to demonstrate you can leave more than 1 space open. You can in fact leave all 3 spaces open, but in order to prevent an infinite loop, you'd have to have an if statement in here with the condition. And doing all this is kind of pointless because it's actually a lot quicker to do it in here. The reason they allow you to do it in here is because it's quicker than setting it all up inside the loop. So spaces are sometimes useful. You can leave spaces, but most of the time you'll want to fill in all the stuff in the for loop. Okay. So anyway, we miss out the creation and declaration of a variable here. The only thing we input here is the control statement, the controlling statement for the for loop, and we miss out again the incrementation. I think that's correct English. I don't know. Okay, so again. Whoops, this is actually wrong, sorry. Remember how I talked about up here? Note the effect of putting j++ before or after our main statement. Well, in the previous one I was putting it after, but I'm going to demonstrate putting it before, okay? So, let's just go ahead and take a look at what happens. Okay, we can see here, oh yeah, of course it says hello u2, comma, space, k, okay? And it actually outputs 1, 2, 3 all the way to 10 as opposed to 0 through 9, and that's because what happens is when it starts it's 0 of course, and before it outputs the statement it increments it to 1. So the first one that's going to be output is 1 because it didn't have a chance to output 0 before it was incremented, and then again after it's incremented to 9 it will go to 9, it will output whatever, then it will loop back round and it will start the loop before it's incremented to 10, and so it's actually got a whole loop more than it theoretically should have, because k is 10 inside the loop when the conditional statement actually says this loop can only be run while k is less than 10. But the only reason it gets away with that is because when the for loop starts, and remember it only checks this statement every time an iteration of the loop begins. When the for loop starts, that iteration begins, the k, the variable, is actually assigned a value of 9, and it's incremented 10 inside the loop, outputs 10, and then it goes back round, checks this statement, and it sees, whoops, it's 11 now, so, sorry, it's 10 now, of course, so it's not less than 10, so end, and it just waits for character input, as you can see here. 1 second. There we go. just type in anything, press enter, and that will end the program. So quick run through of the for loop. By sub 12 over and out, guys.